So, we are not hopping very far because we are going to go to Maximilian's brother-in-law, Carlotta's older brother? Younger brother? I actually don't know.
I can tell you it gets worse, but we'll get back to that.
Okay, so Carlotta's brother, Leopold II, King of the Belgians.
Okay, we got the Belgians.
Yes. He is called Leopold II, not just because he was the son of Leopold I, but also because he was the second king ever of Belgium.
Oh, so they didn't really do the whole king thing then.
Well, before, they had been basically just a battleground between France and Germany. Right? It was after the Napoleonic Wars that the coalition got together and said, look, they are never going to give up fighting over this patch of ground. Let's make a new kingdom, give it a king, encourage them to be neutral, and we'll call it Belgium.
Cool.
And we'll get this guy, Leopold. He is a German prince. We'll have him come over and be king, and it'll be great. So Leopold I has his children, and he raises Leopold II to be, in his mind, the perfect king. And what that means is that if Leopold II wants to talk to his dad, he has to make an appointment, just like everyone else. He is he is imbued with this. How do I even describe it other than intense toxic masculinity from the time that he is very young? He has to be perfectly masculine. He has to be completely impersonal, right? He can't be biased in any way. He has to be the embodiment of the kingdom. And so that is how he is raised.
Okay.
In this kind of harsh environment. He is put into the military at a very young age, but when he gets older, when he's 30, he becomes king of Belgium when Leopold I passes away, and he starts looking for something to be his legacy. And after looking around for a bit, he gets this idea that what we really need is to go out into the world and do some colonizing. Because everybody's colonizing.
Everybody
right now.
was colonizing. It's a thing to do.
Let's get out there and get ourselves a colony. And he actually travels the world trying to find a colony that someone is willing to sell. Or lease, even. He's like, there's got to be somebody that's willing to let us have one of these. But nobody's really selling their colonies. So that's not a thing. And on top of that, Parliament, his Parliament, the king of the Belgians, is mostly a symbolic leader. He doesn't actually have that much power. So when he goes to Parliament and says, hey, we should really get a colony, they say, you know what? We're actually kind of okay. We've done the whole
We're just a little country.
We're just a little country. We've seen lots of war and fighting and stealing stuff. We're kind of okay. Like, we've got everything that we need.
It's fine.
It's fine. Would you just be calm? So things aren't going great for him. He's kind of frustrated with this, and kind of frustrated with the fact that he doesn't have more power to do whatever he wants.
I get frustrated with that myself.
Yeah. At one point later in his life, his nephew and heir apparent is with him in his office, and they've got a member of parliament there, and a gust of wind comes in through the window, knocks some papers off the desk. And the member of parliament goes to pick them up and says, oh, yeah, let me get those for you. And Leopold says, no, let my nephew do it. He should get used to having to stoop before Parliament.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure who he was burning in that moment.
So he's got a little bit of a complex about being an impotent king.
Right.
But one day he meets this very famous explorer, Henry Morton Stanley.
Okay.
Now you might have heard of him, or at least you have heard a very famous quote of his, which is,
Dr. Livingstone, I presume.
that's the one. Because he spent years, like Livingston goes missing in Africa, and he goes out and spends years combing the African interior to try to find this guy, and in the process becomes very, very famous. So he and Leopold meet up, and they immediately become friends. Right?
So this is a buddy story then.
This is a buddy story.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because Stanley, in his adventuring, had discovered the Congo River. Not discovered, but had explored more of the Congo River than anyone had ever seen. And the Congo River is this big loop, basically, that actually goes up over the equator and back down and then out to the ocean, so that part of the river is in the rainy season year round.
Oh, wow.
So it never runs dry. It never goes low. And
That's
so
cool.
you've got, yeah, it's really cool. And so you get this extremely developed water system that's like, it's like this massive canal system just built by nature waiting to be exploited. The only problem is that right before it gets to the coast, it suddenly goes down miles and miles and miles of rapids.
Oh, dang. So
And
not
so-
not an effective route to the ocean. You couldn't ship along this river.
You can, you just need to build a railroad from the top of the rapids to the bottom of the rapids, and you could just take boats and disassemble them, put them on the tracks, chug, 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 to the bottom, and you're on the ocean.
Okay, so a little bit of ingenuity, and Leopold could develop this whole region.
This is doable. Stanley has seen it, and King Leopold II is like, you know what? We need to do this.
Legacy.
This will be my legacy, is opening up the Congo Basin, the entire Congo River system, to civilization. And so he hosts the something geographical society. He hosts this enormous party in Belgium, where he just, it's this disgustingly lavish party, and he invites princes and lords and different like capitalist robber barons from all over the world, and he brings them all to Belgium to talk about, to like meet Henry Morton Stanley and to hear about the Congo. And everybody's very excited about what they hear. And he says, okay, here's what I propose. We found the International Africa Association. We'll
Okay.
gather funds and we'll build a road from below the rapids to above the rapids and open up this entire area to trade, to missionary work, to more exploration, to science, right? There's like all this rainforest in there. And on top of that, we can drive out the Arab slavers that raid in this area.
Got to stop that slave trade.
Yeah. So everybody is on board with this. And a whole bunch of people buy shares in the International Africa Association, which funds Stanley to go back to the Congo. And he goes up the river, building these stations along the way and signing treaties with all of the tribes that live there.
Okay, doing things right.
Yeah, yeah. So Stanley comes back out, and he's got treaties with most of the tribes that live along these rivers. And they have announced that based on their cooperation with the International Africa Association, of which King Leopold is chairperson, that they want to become an independent country, the Congo Free State.
All these tribes want to become the Congo Free State.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
wonderful.
So, so a representative of the International Africa Association, actually at this point it has changed its name to something pretty similar and kind of forgettable. And they send a General Stanford to the U.S. to lobby various senators and President Chester A. Arthur to recognize this African country as its own independent entity. And he does, after some persuasion. And now we have, independent of all of the European powers, this independent African country that is being guided by this organization of philanthropists and humanitarians from around the world, the chairperson of which is this world-renowned philanthropist with a big fluffy white beard and a giant tricycle named King Leopold II.
Oh, Uncle Leo. Well, he sounds delightful.
Yeah, not bad. And it works, right? It opens up with the road built, and later they build a railroad, just like they planned. They're able to open all of this up to missionary work and trade, and they bring out all of this African art, and they bring out all of this ivory, which is used for everything at the time. Later, they start bringing out rubber because they've just figured out how to vulcanize rubber, and they set up these great big schools. They set up 3 giant schools in the interior, and they drive off the Arab slavers, and
Nice.
yeah.
All right.
And
well,
everybody
gee.
lives happily ever after, pretty much.
Gee, Uncle Leo sounds amazing. So we developed this whole philanthropic organization, stop the slavers, this...
One more awesome fact.
Yeah, tell me more about this amazing Uncle Leo.
The tricycle was named Mon Animal, my animal. And he would ride around the street, like right around the palace and through the streets, both in Belgium and in Paris, where he spent a lot of his time, on this giant tricycle.
Well, what a lovable and inspiring character from history.
World-renowned philanthropist.
Yes.
Yeah.